just wanted to touch on some of the things that I've experienced with sleep paralysis. I don't know. I don't want to open up anything too scary.
Okay.
But I don't know if you saw that dramatization, that video of mine. But
yes, I did.
That is probably the most terrifying thing I've ever been through with sleep paralysis. But it's something that I do struggle with. It's actually it's not just the paralysis; it's also hallucinations. In the wakes, you're in that transition state between sleep and awake, and it can happen when you're going to sleep or when you're coming out. But it's more common when you're coming out of sleep.
I have that too.
Okay, so tell me if you have, like I have a bedroom, and one side there's just a wall, and the other side there's a door and a hallway. I will hear somebody at a dead run, running from the far side of my room, out my door and down my hallway and down my stairs to the point where I have sprung out of bed, grabbed my baseball bat, ran downstairs, made sure all the doors are locked, and then just gone through the house with a fine-tooth comb. That type of stuff.
I hear the footprints. I hear the footsteps coming towards me, though.
So you hit like the one I had that I posted the other day. So you can hear them coming, but you can't move.
Right. Yeah. Exactly that. Yeah.
That is crazy.
And I'm completely awake. I'm talking myself through it. I'm telling myself, this is not that it's not real, because it is real, but this is something you can control. Because when I first started having them, I was in a very, very dark space. And I think that opened a door for that. And I didn't realize that, I heard the walking, and I felt the pressure on my body.
Yep.
And but mine have progressed to not just that, but because I started to be able to control those.
Sure.
Where I would say to myself, your fear will feed this. So calm down. Just calm down. And even when you feel it, just calm down. So I had what I call tricks to get out of it. But it's progressed to the point where now I have that in-between wake thing.
Yeah.
And what happens to me with that is that I can feel myself be pulled back into a space. And the last time that I had it happen, that had that situation, my body started to tingle. I was awake. I could see. I have a salt lamp next to my bed. I could see the light of my salt lamp, and my body started to tingle. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but my head felt crushed, and I was hearing people. People speaking to me, and I literally said out loud, "Oh shit." I heard myself say it out loud, and because I didn't have the tools. This is just something I'd never experienced before. I didn't have the tools to know how to get out of it. And I was drawn back in. Right after I said, "Oh shit," it drew me back in.
Okay. That is so similar. I have not been able to get out, but the first one I ever had, I was, I know how old I was. I was 28. And the reason I know that is because my daughter was 7 months old. I'm laying in bed, and I can feel people in the living room. It's a single story, and there's just a short hallway that makes an L, and then there's a living room. I don't know how to explain it, but I could feel that there were people in the living room. I could just feel their presence, and it was almost like this quiet, just like lots of talking. And my two dogs, I had two chows, and like Martha Stewart, and so they're on the bed, and I couldn't move. This is the first time I'd ever had sleep paralysis, and all I could finally do, I said, "Sick 'em, sick 'em," and and because I couldn't move to wake up anyone, and the dogs run out the hallway, and they're gone. I don't know where they're at. The next thing I remember, I'm standing up, looking out the bedroom window, and I look to myself laying in my bed. I see myself, and then I look out the window, and I see these white human shapes gliding down the sidewalks, and they're coming in and out of all the doors of the houses in the neighborhood. Okay, and then I wake up, and I sit up, and my pillow is stuck to my face, and I'm just my nose was bleeding, and I bled so much that the pillow stuck to my face, and I ended up having to go in for surgery to have a tumor removed.
Wow.
But it's kind of funny because my daughter was so young, and the next day she stood up, and and to this day we call it the upgrade that she got. Because I mean it was just like night and day. So I don't know if that's sleep paralysis or if that's just something else, but that was definitely the first time that I was in bed asleep and couldn't move.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
During one of our podcasts, one of our very first podcasts, and it was what was it? Was it the one about? What was it about, Jeremy? Do you remember? I was talking to Jory though, and my husband was here. My dad had flown in, and he was here, and my nose just started gushing. And it was right after my dad and my husband heard whispering on the podcast. They both had earbuds in, and they heard a voice whispering behind me. And my husband went in to Jeremy and said, "Hey," because I think we were talking about shadow figures, Jory.
Is that the
whisper that sounds about right?
I think I captured whispering on one of your podcasts. And
yeah, you did. Yes,
sure.
that was the leading up to what happened that night. That we captured that voice during that podcast, and the week before that was when they heard the whispering, and my nose just started gushing. And Jory, outside of Jory's house, was a car accident at the exact same time. It was all in the lead up to that. For me, the pinnacle of what happened.
That is just. I mean, what are the odds of all this?
Yeah.
Like that? I mean,
and it wasn't just a fender bender. Like it was bad enough that they had to change the intersections on stop signs. Like it became a 4-way stop. Like probably a month after that accident because it was horrific, like bad. And it was at the exact same time Mom got her nosebleed. So it was a little creepy.
Yeah. And all of this was really interesting because all of this we're trying not to let bleed into the podcast.
Bleed in.
Yes, quote bleed in. So
no,
trying to,
no pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. Yeah. So and lately I've been having these horrific nosebleeds and like these huge blood clots and it makes me nervous. Really?
That is.
Yeah. So it's really strange that we've had a similar thing because Jory had side. Yes. What?
It's in the right
side.
I'm going to check to see if I was adopted.
No kidding.
It's
the right side. And then I'll have these huge blood clots. Jory's wife loves that type of thing, so I send her the pictures. Like, hey, it's a boy.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're huge. It's the weirdest thing. And Josh is here with me, and he goes and gets a roll of toilet paper. I soak through an entire roll of toilet paper, and then I have this huge blood clot.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is something else.
So, did your sleep paralysis, has it progressed, do you feel?
It has not occurred. However, a lot of people that know me think that I'm crazy for doing the spirit box in my home because we hear things. My daughter, I have a one daughter at the University of Oregon, and she's doing cadaver lab right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
love that.
she's really excited about that. My youngest is 13, and I'll be in bed and I'll hear her kind of walking down the hallway, and I'll kind of, that's weird. And then I'll hear her walk back, and then I'll hear her walk back again. And in the morning, I'll just, get up, and she'll say, "Dad, why were you walking up and down the hallway so much last night?"
Oh.
And we have a real problem with our kitchen sink. The right-hand side opens up, the bottom under the sink.
Huh.
It's pushed open. I've put cameras there, and I've never captured. I had a camera there on motion detect, so it would turn on if motion was detected. I wake up in the morning, nothing. Oh, geez, this is a waste of time. Turn it off, take a shower, come back, the door's open.
Oh.
So I have a lot of shadows, and I don't know how much is imagination, but or you think you're more in tune to things. You seem to see things a little bit more, but just weird stuff like that. Doing spirit box in your house is not really recommended.
Yeah.
For most people.
Yeah, I for sure wouldn't want to do it in my house by myself.
No, you would not. No, not even close.
So your daughter, does your daughter know that you do this? Your youngest?
She does. I've taken her. I don't take her on investigations, but I have taken her to the insane asylum and let her walk through the tunnels and get some, during daytime.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous. A lot of broken glass in certain spots. So she definitely does have a draw to the darker things.
Do you think that's because of you?
No, really? I don't. My oldest daughter, when she was 3, long before I ever did this stuff, her favorite movie was A Nightmare Before Christmas. She's always been kind of dark.
Right.
And my youngest is the same way.
I think that all my children have had an interest or have seen things since they were little. All of my children have. There's this little place in Casa Grande. Maybe Jory can show it to you. It's across the street. Kendra knows it's across the street from the courthouse. It's tiny little strip of buildings. We drove by there, and my youngest son Josh, he was, I don't even know, maybe 2 or 3 at the time. We drove by, and he told me that there was dead people in there. And wow. it was at the time it was like an insurance agency or something, and I was like, no, there's not. He's like, no, there's dead people in there, and I got a ticket not long after that, and I had to go to driving school. And driving school was basically this guy teaching us the history of Casa Grande, so it was actually interesting. And he told us that was the very first hospital ever in Casa Grande.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
How would you know?
The building you're talking about is actually a part of the college. It's part of
the college. Okay. Yeah. So I had to. I was like, okay, there were dead people there. Sorry about that. I'll believe you next time.
I could probably get some sort of gear in there and get some. See if I can't get some evidence kind of discreetly.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be really great. I think you're going to really enjoy, I guess, if that's the word, the domes.
Yes, I am really looking forward to it. That I've heard so much about the feel, the energy. Jory, you said that you've even seen something moving by the entrance. That, if I remember correctly, that's scary.
Oh yeah, well, Jory's had a lot of experiences.
If they're saying Dome 2 collapsed, then that's I'm trying to remember the layout. Dome 2 would be right next to the UFO-shaped dome. And that's where I saw the luminescence was that dome.
Really?
I mean, it doesn't mean he won't be there or it or whatever, but yeah. Either way, it's creepy out there.
Well, I don't think it has to do with the fact
That's all.
that the dome was a shape of a dome. Even it's still where it was. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I'm
Exactly.
saying the collapse of it probably doesn't matter. It's just
Yeah.
that's where I saw it.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be freaky no matter what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
either way, it's going to be every dome, even though they're all right next to each other, the domes all have their own unique energies. You get a different vibe from every one of them. So, I think you'll be satisfied with what you get.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for that one. That'll be good. So, Jory, is there any other questions that you would like to ask Brian that I have forgotten?
I'm just curious. I guess this is one of those little quirks that kind of annoys me about paranormal research in general. Do you base your investigations solely at night, or do you integrate day and night investigations?
Usually night, but day and night. There's a reason for that. We like to go and do scope out the property. If you're going to go somewhere at night, it can be dangerous. I always scope it out and I always film. So whether or not it makes the cut, a lot of times during the daytime it's extra noisy, and a lot of people, they think IR is the way to go. But I've seen visual light. We've captured a lot of really good evidence, but with infrared, you have infrared shadows. You can see regular shadows. Full spectrum is definitely preferred, day or night. But it's usually nighttime, just because it's the quietest time, and you can get the cleanest evidence.
Yeah, I get it from that perspective. It just irritates me, and you can't do it in every location, and I understand that. But I believe there are locations that, and this is purely based off of just what I've seen on TV. So I'm not judging anybody else out there. But I feel like because you always hear these people tell their stories, and a lot of them are during the day, but you don't see them try to be like, well, let's try and recapture that exact moment at that exact time. They try to capture that evidence, and if you're in a location that's busy or that's going to be busy around it during the day, I can understand maybe you have to make some adjustments. But if you're somewhere where it's not hectic, why not try something, at least some kind of small investigation there during the day, and see what happens?
Absolutely. At Casa Grande, I have 2 days a daytime be real dedicated, and only one nighttime. So it's going to be a lot of daytime.
And that actually is a location that you can not have a lot of noise around you. Trust me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right off of a road, so like the only noise pollution will just be the occasional car driving by, and that's it.
As long as there's no Texas Chainsaw Massacre family living nearby, that would just be a real bummer. Casa Grande.
I don't make promises.
Yeah.
It's a killing fields in Casa Grande, discovered by Diabolical Witness.
The hard way.
It was the first donation.
Well, let's talk about that video that you put up.
Which
with
one?
The woman who
Oh,
was.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you tell us about that video? And by the way, this is where I'm going to take an opportunity. Diabolical Witness has a YouTube channel. I will put the link below, and please do go visit, because if you like paranormal, which is why you're here, you're going to love it. Anyways, please do tell us about that experience, because that was one of your first experiences.
It was.
Ghost hunting? Okay.
That's right. You'll notice that the film is even date stamped. One camera is even off by a day. So we're amateur hour. Okay. It's only 2 years ago. I mean, it's amazing I've been doing this every chance we get since then, and it seems like more like 20 years. But so we get this house, and this house is it belongs to a friend of a friend, and the family had to evacuate, and it's on a very well-to-do farm, with $1 million farm equipment, and so it's really kind of out of place, and it's just sitting there rotting right in the middle of these giant sheds, and it's right in the middle of a 200-acre cattle ranch. I mean, so they didn't want to tear it down for whatever reason, but they used to live here, and they said we had to move. It was haunted, and so they just left the house, and we did a little arm twisting. We got the okay to go in, and my buddy, at the time, he goes, "Hey, I have a friend. She wants to come. She's psychic, and she's always wanted to go on a ghost hunt." Said, "Great, yeah, bring her in." And we pull up to the place, and right away, she looks kind of lethargic, and we go in the house, and we capture an EVP. Who's God? I mean, where do you get that? I mean, this is on the camcorder audio. And then, we're walking around, and she's just talking funny. She's saying things like they're watching from the windows. And this is somebody who's sober, okay? This is, and, I say, "Hey, I'm going to close the door." And she goes, "It watches from the door." And I didn't really realize what was going on because I didn't know Kelly personally, but Jason was he was noticing it. Something was really off. And first thing, within 10 minutes, we go upstairs. And she, just starts talking like, "Yeah, boy." And I was like, "What the heck?" I figured at the time I didn't hear her. We play it backwards, and it says some unusual name. It sounds Hebrew, "with me." I mean, you know how hard it is to speak backwards English. I don't know if I could say "with me" back. I'd have to practice it.
Right.
But I just discovered this recently. I'm going through my old stuff, redoing it so it's not completely amateur hour, and we found that. And then she's talking, and her voice sounds demonic, masculine. This isn't working. You can't. And then it switches to hers. "You can't make me do this." And I noticed that. She said she heard a voice right behind her head.
Right.
And that is okay. I was getting a little freaked out, and
you can't tell in the video, though. You can't tell that you guys are reacting to what's happening.
Well, we're trying to be polite a little bit, but it's like,
you don't want to offend her.
I don't know if she's going to just float and just hackle and just glide right towards me or not. So we were a little freaked out. She said that she's feeling really uneasy. We say, "Okay, well, we go in the basement. She wants to go." And then she starts talking about, well, it says, "Well, what do you want me to say?" And so she was, hearing. She told us that she was hearing them talk to her, and she started to get very sick. And she said, "Look, I'm just going to go in the car and just take a nap." And she did, and we checked on her, and she was asleep. So she was comfortable. So we just continued doing the investigation. But that place was particularly scary because just the sheer amount of EVPs and unexplained noises. We were all upstairs, and we heard somebody kick a box. Like a big box that bananas would come in. So it sounded like someone kicked it, and it went across the room.
Right.
We didn't know what to think, and this is our first time. And looking back, she was at the early stages of demonic possession or some sort of possession. We should have got out of there. We weren't prepared at the time, but I think we got a little lucky. But we could hear someone walking towards us in that, coming down the stairs, and we caught some pretty good evidence on that.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And now, it was hard to tell in the video, but when you went upstairs, did one of the rooms have like children's wallpaper on it or something?
It did.
That for some reason, that really sent like a tingle down me because the house was, empty, and there was cobwebs. Like, she was making comments about the spiders and the cobwebs and whatnot,
Yeah.
And then you turn the camera and it like pans over this like baby bunny kind of stuff, and the juxtaposition of what you're doing, what she's experiencing, and with this, baby wallpaper was so creepy.
It definitely made an impact on me too. We heard somebody walk into the kitchen from outside and walk across the kitchen, and there was nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
You could see that Jason was in total disbelief. So, I mean, it was pretty shocking. That was pretty. I think we just walked into that one flat-footed, unprepared.
Mm-hmm.
But we luckily we did capture some decent evidence, even though the equipment we were using was pretty substandard.
Yeah, it was really good. And has she ever gone with you again?
She has not, and she doesn't want to.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I would imagine she probably had an attachment, and you just don't snap your fingers and you're okay. You know, when you get like that, you're talking backwards. I mean,
yeah.
I hope she's okay. I should probably check with Jason to find out if he's talked to her, but I certainly haven't.
And I wonder if, as somebody who felt that she has psychic ability, if that was, if that's why it was attracted to her, like she has the open doorway.
Absolutely, she was wide open. She was already acting unusual as we were walking up to the front door.
Mm.
Yeah, and we do know there's one body buried somewhere next to that house.
No.
He was a farmhand, and he had no money, and they agreed to bury him by the homestead. That's when they were all living there. So he was a friend of the family.
Mm.
And
Wow.
that's just the way it was, back then.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Jory, is there anything else you'd like to ask Brian?
No, I think we've hit a lot of different topics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciate you coming and letting us pick your brain about these things. It's so interesting to me. It's so interesting that you'll go so far and put yourself in such frightening positions.
It is scary. Yeah, and thank you for having me on and talk about it. It's definitely not easy.
Well, I really appreciate it, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
Hopefully this next one is worth the story.
And maybe we can do a podcast where we talk about, the kind of stuff that you've experienced, and that would be interesting.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Brian, and thank you for being part of my 31 Days of Halloween. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
And I guess I'll say goodnight now. And thank you, Jeremy, for helping out. And thank you, Jory, for coming.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Good night, guys.
And good night.
Good night.